This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
We broke down the Kentucky Derby earlier today on Covering the Spread. Now it is time to break down the Kentucky Oaks because the Derby is not the lone exciting race this weekend at Churchill Downs. On Friday, we get the fillies on the track at Churchill Downs. Christina Blacker of FanDuel TV back with us once again. She's going to break down her thoughts on the Oaks and break down where she is seeing value for Friday's race at Churchill Downs. Welcome on into Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research. Joined here once again by Christina Blacker. Check her out on X at Christina FDTV. She is a host, analyst, and reporter for FanDuel TV and FanDuel Racing. Christina, welcome back on into the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Good to be with you and excited to talk about the fillies for Friday.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, for you, you're down at Churchill Downs already. You're there throughout this entire week. So I feel like when you have a full slate of races Friday, you've got the big one at the Oaks on Friday, then you've got the Derby and all those races on Saturday. That sounds like a marathon, doing that back to back. Are you just dead by the end of the day Saturday at that point?
Yes. The short answer is yes. Yeah, it's a lot. I think some people don't realize because, of course, the focal point is the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. And then, of course, it is on Friday for the Kentucky Oaks. But opening night was the prior Saturday, and they race until 11 o'clock at night. They call it Downs After Dark, and they have a theme, and it's a big kind of party atmosphere for the whole town here in Louisville. And then because the racing has become so popular and the Derby is such a bucket list kind of day and an expensive ticket, if we're honest, if you're coming to the Kentucky Derby, it's pretty pricey. They've started to back into the week so that the other racing fans, if that's maybe not in your discretionary budget, you can go on Tuesday that they call 50 Tuesday for the locals. The local area code is 502 and you get in for $5. We race on Wednesday as well. We race on Thursday. They call it Thurby now. It just has the excitement has kind of backed up into the week, which for us at FanDuel, it's fun and it's wonderful,
Sure.
But we're doing the breakfast show in the morning.
Right.
We're doing racing in the afternoons. It really is a marathon. And a huge part, obviously, of what I do and our team is the studying for the show. The show is fun. The show is the execution. The work is the studying at home. So we're burning the midnight oil to try and come up with all of our selections. And then it's just fun when you get there to actually watch the races and talk about them.
And it's going to be a marathon, but a fun one for sure. Hopefully less torturous than an actual marathon, and a good time on Friday and Saturday and throughout the week as well. Today, we're going to talk about the Oaks and break down Christina's thoughts on the Oaks. We'll talk about Good Cheer, why Good Cheer is the big favorite for the Kentucky Oaks, and get Christina's favorite bets, not just for the Kentucky Oaks, but also for the other races Friday and Saturday at Churchill Downs to try to identify where she is seeing value there. We'll dive into all that here in just 1 second. But first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcast, because it's not just the Oaks for today. As mentioned, we did break down the Derby earlier on today with Christina. That is now up on the Covering the Spread podcast feed, but also the FanDuel YouTube page. Go to the FanDuel YouTube page, subscribe, leave us a thumbs up there, and turn on notifications to get notified as videos go up there. Also, check out the Covering the Spread podcast feed for the Derby show and get thoughts on Christina's process, her read on the horses, what she's seen in the prep races, as well as she has been traveling all throughout the world. That is up on the Covering the Spread podcast feed tomorrow. Pitching Ninja joins me to break down his thoughts on early takeaways from the first week of Major League Baseball as well. Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe. And if you like what you hear, leave us a 5-star rating and review as well. FanDuel is the first sportsbook app where you can bet the Kentucky Derby. And right now, all customers get a no-sweat Derby bet. That means you'll get racing bonus back if your bet does not win. The app is super easy to use, and you don't even have to be a horse racing expert like Christina to get in on the Derby Day action. So, bet America's #1 race with America's #1 sportsbook. Just visit FanDuel for your chance to get a no-sweat bet for the Kentucky Derby. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino or 18 plus and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit M&D Gambling.org in Maryland. Hope is here for the gambling helpline, ma.org, or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY in New York. Option required. Verified FanDuel Racing account required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable racing site credit that expires 9 days after receipt. Max refund $10 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at racing.fanduel.com. Offer not available in D.C., Kansas, North Carolina, New Jersey, Tennessee, or Vermont. Churchill Downs, Kentucky Derby, Kentucky Oaks, and Twin Spires are registered trademarks of Churchill Downs Incorporated. Now, Christina, on our Derby podcast, we talked about the lead-in to the races, the prep races for the Derby. What horses stood out to you in the lead-in for this year's Kentucky Oaks?
Quite a few of them. And something to remember is that just as we are traveling to cover these prep races for the horses running in the Derby, more often than not, the fillies have an equivalent race on those cards. So on Florida Derby Day, there's a race for the fillies that also would offer points to the Kentucky Oaks. Same thing at Santa Anita. You'll have the Santa Anita Derby, but that same weekend, you'll have the Santa Anita Oaks. So we've had the opportunity to keep a really close eye on these horses. One of my biggest takeaways has just been trainer Brad Cox and the depth of the fillies in his barn. So if you go back to last year, to 2024, and when this class was 2 years old, he trained the champion 2-year-old by the name of Immersive, and she was undefeated all through the year, and she won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, which would be the biggest 2-year-old race for a filly on the dirt. She's on the sidelines and just coming back now. So unfortunately, she's not going to make the Kentucky Oaks this year. Just the timing is off for her. One of the other horses he had was a horse by the name of Muhima. And I kind of heard through the grapevine that he thought she was the best of all of his fillies. She's also sitting this one out, has to wait. They had to take a little break with her. Good Cheer, who's the morning line favorite for the Kentucky Oaks, I think she's been a little bit of a late bloomer, and that seems silly to say because she's undefeated. She's 6 for 6, but she's just now really starting to step forward and run some strong speed figures. And I think she's surprised Brad Cox a little bit. I think she's kind of overachieved from what he was seeing in the mornings as compared to some of those other horses. She's a good favorite for the race. I cannot argue with anybody that wants to pick her, put her on top. 6 to 5 is short to me, though. In a race like this, when, again, similar to the Colts, everyone has earned their way into this race. And I don't think that on paper, she's a 6 to 5 favorite over the rest of this group. I think she should be favored and I think that the way that the casual bettors are going to play, they probably will play her that short, because you say to someone who doesn't know much about horse racing, this horse is undefeated, then yeah, of course, that's where my money is going to go into a race on such a big day. So I'll use her in all my wagers, any pick 4s, any pick 5s, anything that overlaps with the Kentucky Oaks, but she won't get my win money because I don't think that she is that strong of a standout over this group.
Now, one thing you discussed on our Derby show was context and how there are some situations where a win may not be as impressive as a win. You're talking about how Good Cheer is undefeated. Is that kind of why you're a bit hesitant to say that they deserve to be a 6 to 5 favorite? Is it the context behind those wins, or what leads to maybe being a bit lower than what the market or what the money line number is on Good Cheer leading in?
Yeah, the interesting thing about this filly group, and as I mentioned, we had horses like Immersive, horses like Muhima, who are not going to make the race, and then you had horses that just kind of came onto the scene really late, like Simply Joking and Fondly. So we don't have as much form to compare these horses against each other because they sort of showed up at different times of the year and maybe haven't taken each other on. I think the strongest prep race was the Ashland in Kentucky. That is the race at Keeneland, held the first week. So it was April the 7th. The winner that day was Lacara. Take Charge Milady also exit that race, and she'll come back in the Kentucky Oaks this weekend. So I thought that that was one of the stronger races. I think the fillies coming out of Arkansas are pretty strong this year, which is completely opposite to my opinion of the Colts. I thought that the Arkansas Derby was maybe not the strongest, but I think the females that were training and racing in Arkansas, they run for so much money at Oaklawn Park. They have a casino that's attached to the racetrack, and that funnels a lot of money into the purses. So just for example, the Arkansas Derby, is a $1.5 million race. Everybody wants to run there. That's a prep race for the Kentucky Derby. You're prepping for that much money. And so for a lot of horsemen, they are going to send some of their better horses down there. And I think with the fillies this year, we got some of the better ones. Quiet Side was the winner of the Fantasy, which is the final female prep race in Arkansas. I thought her outside draw was a little tricky. I might have picked her on top if she didn't end up all the way in post position number 14. But just in general, I'm going to take the opinion that Arkansas and Kentucky is where we find our strongest fillies here.
Okay, so Arkansas and Philly, Arkansas, the Philly race is there pretty strong. Again, as you said, the opposite of what we had for the Derby, where California was kind of the better prep area. Who do you think has the best odds to challenge Good Cheer? You mentioned Quiet Side getting dinged down because of the post draw. When you look at things as they stand now, which horse do you think can give Good Cheer the best run for her money?
Yeah, as a whole, I'm going to make Lacara my top selection in here, the 7 horse. She is 6-1 on the morning line, and she was the winner of the Ashland, which I mentioned, I think is the toughest prep race. There's a lot to like about Lacara. We talked on the Derby podcast about how you sort of need that total package. With fillies, I would add sort of one extra component to it in that they sometimes just come into some really good form and they're feeling good. And you can really tell the way you look at them, their coat, if it's really shiny, they get what we call dapples on their coat. And they're almost like little circles. And you can see that they're just shining sort of from the inside out. Lacara's last race in the Ashland was her fastest, and she won it with such ease. If anybody has the chance to go back and watch that replay, horses give you an indication of how comfortable they are with their ears. So when their ears are flat pinned back against their head, they're angry or they're trying really hard. So when you watch for horses that are in a battle, a stretch duel, head and head, you'll see those ears go straight back. And that's when they're really digging deep and giving you their best. When a horse is flicking their ears back and forth, they're listening to the rider, they're looking forward. If they put both ears forward, they're really comfortable. They're running very easily. And you watch that replay, and Lacara just looks like she's out there having a great time. Ears up, looking around, like, what's going on, guys? No problem. Dusted the field by a length and a quarter. Easily could have gone faster. And I think she's just getting really good right now. And she looks so good. We've seen her in the morning on the Breakfast at the Kentucky Derby show. She also has a win at Churchill Downs, which is really important. She's been successful over this track in the past. You go back to her 2-year-old season, and she won a race by the name of the Pocahontas, and she ran a very different race that day from well off the pace. I like that she's shown some versatility. I think she's better when she's on the front end, but she's training so well. She ran, a huge performance last time out. She has the pedigree. Her father, Street Sense, was a Kentucky Derby winner. And then her mother, Cara Caterina, is a daughter of a horse by the name of Bernardini. Bernardini was a Preakness winner. And his legacy as a stallion has really been in his daughters that have gone on to be mothers. He has produced at least, and it's hard to clock, like we don't keep track of as much of the daughters of stallions on the stats. Yeah. The last check I had was 92 stakes winners of daughters of Bernardini. And so Lacara, top and bottom, it's a beautiful pedigree. And I think right now she's just really, really good. So I'll take her at 6-1. I think I'm not the only one that's picked up on how well she's been training. I don't know if we get every bit of that 6-1, maybe 4-1 at the end, but I still think that's a fair price on her as we come to the Kentucky Oaks. Okay,
Lacara in the 7 post, 6-1 in the morning line, but as Christina mentioned, probably going to shorten throughout the day on Friday, but she is still okay with that despite that. And it sounds like Lacara is going to be like your favorite horse for this race. Yeah. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Any other horses you got an eye on for your... Okay, perfect. Any other horses you have an eye on for your non-win bets for the Kentucky Oaks?
Yeah, so I will use Quiet Side on exactas, trifectas, superfectas. I'll throw her in on pick 4s just because I think she has the talent to win. Her last 2 races were in Arkansas. Again, I think it's pretty tough, those fillies coming out of there. But I just am worried about the post position getting her beat. It's not that she doesn't have the ability, but you want to throw her on tickets underneath because she's 8-1. And you want to use her, in options if you have to be able to cover yourself for a pick 4 or pick 5, if you can play a ticket that big. Take Charge Milady, the 10. She was second in the Ashland behind Lacara, and we get more distance in the Kentucky Oaks for this race. She was coming from off the pace, Take Charge Milady, and the added 16th of a mile, I think, helps her. It gives her a little bit more room to maybe catch Lacara if the scenario ends up unfolding where Lacara's on the front end and she's rallying from off the pace like she was last time out. The others, they would kind of surprise me a little bit, to be honest. The 2-horse Simply Joking, I think she's also improving. She was second behind Quiet Side last time, but I think Quiet Side showed that she really was the better filly that day. So I'll go a little bit more narrow, I think, in the Oaks rather than the Derby, where I'd want a little bit more coverage.
Okay, so Lacara, the main contender at 6-1, Quiet Side 8-1, despite the poor post draw, still a bet for Christina, and then Take Charge Milady 12-1 on the morning line. All horses Christina has her eye on for Friday's Kentucky Oaks. Now, as we've alluded to, Christina, there are a bajillion other races going on at Churchill Downs throughout this weekend. So I want to kind of give you the floor for the races you've prepped so far. Are there any other horses catching your attention across the other races on Friday and Saturday?
Yeah, there's a couple races that I've kind of had the chance to really take a look at this point. One of them is race number 8 on Saturday at Churchill Downs. It's called the Churchill Downs. It's a grade 1 race. It's a 7 furlong race. And so 7 furlongs is an eighth of a mile shorter than a 1 mile distance. We run 8 furlongs in every mile. I think this is actually, aside of course from the Kentucky Derby, going to end up being the best race on the card. There are some horses in here that have very high reputations. One of them is a horse by the name of Nisos, the 10. He runs for Bob Baffert. He's 4 years old. Last year, Bob Baffert could not compete in the Kentucky Derby. Nisos hadn't qualified on points because he had an injury and had to sit on the sidelines. But what he showed us in his first few races, I think there's an easy argument that he was one of the best horses in the entire class. And he comes back this year. Bob Baffert is permitted to run again at Churchill Downs this year. And he's not coming in with this horse just to run around the racetrack. Like, I think he's coming in to prove a point. He wants Nisos to go out there and just roll in the Churchill Downs and prove that maybe he should have been there last year. I think that's what's going through their mind. They've been training this horse for the last 3 months. I've watched him in California. And every time we've come up to a big weekend of racing, I kept thinking, oh, Nisos is going to show up in XYZ race. Oh, maybe Nisos is going to go to Dubai. It looks like he's ready. Oh, maybe Nisos is going to run at Arkansas. He's been ready. Now it makes sense. They've been prepping this horse for 3 months for this race. So Nisos is really intriguing. But I'll tell you, I think you have to use the horse to his outside in that race too. A horse by the name of Mullican. He's the 11. He's 7-2 on the morning line. I touched on that 7 furlong distance. It's a real specialist distance. Some horses are extremely fast at 6 furlongs, but they can't get the extra furlong to 7. Some horses can give you a really strong tempo all the way to a mile, but that 7 furlongs in the middle is really demanding. It's like, if you think of kids that are running track, I think about this because my daughters run track, like the 800, like it's demanding. Yeah. It's hard. Yeah. It's a really hard race. Mullican is perfect at 7 furlongs. He's also perfect in his record at Churchill Downs. So where Nisos comes in with a lot of hype, Mullican's proven at this distance and over this track. So I want to use him. The other race that I've already really taken a look at and that I love is race number 10. On the Saturday card, it's called the Derby City Distaff. Very, very competitive. Most people will lean in the direction of Vava. She's the 7. She's actually similar to Mullican. She loves Churchill. She loves the distance. This is another 7 furlong race, so I can't talk you off her. But the horse I'm going to use is Copian. She's the 2. Richard Mandela is her trainer. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best in the world when it comes to training horses. He trains out of California. And he doesn't ship very often. He doesn't put horses on planes unless he really thinks he can win. And I don't think he would be sending Copian here on such a big day if she wasn't ready to run a big race. And she, in her last race called the Santa Monica, which was at Santa Anita, she ran the fastest race of any filly in this field so far. She hasn't been tested outside of California, but this is a big jump up, and I think she's ready for it. So Copian is 8-1 for Richard Mandela in race 10. I'll use her and then Vava in that race as well.
Okay, so Vava and Copian in race 10 on Saturday. Copian is the 2, they're at 8-1. And then in race 8 on Saturday, Nisos the 10 and Mulligan the 11 at 7-2 on the morning line there. The horses Christina has her eye on for the other races this weekend. That is all that we have for today and this week. Christina, I know you are a very busy person throughout this week. You're doing a bunch of stuff for FanDuel TV, doing a bunch of stuff for FanDuel Social as well. So I appreciate your very valuable time for today. Enjoy the rest of your time at Churchill Downs. Enjoy the rest you get after Saturday. You get to go home and finally sleep for 5 minutes. I'm sure that would be a blast, but appreciate them as always. Good luck to you. Have fun. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And definitely jump into that FanDuel Racing channel on YouTube, everything on social, everything I've talked to you about. We have it all up on all of the channels. So if anybody wants kind of a deeper dive, it's all available.
Yes, you can dive as deep as you would like because they have got all those resources available to you. The FanDuel Racing YouTube page, a great place to go. And of course, FanDuel TV as well. Find Christina on X at Christina FDTV. I am on X at Jim Sonis and Blue Sky as well at Jim Sonis. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producers, Justin Lane and Carolyn McLeod. Thank you, Justin and Carolyn, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you betting the Oaks and the Derby this weekend. Have a blast. We'll talk to you once again soon. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.